I'm going to rank all Fortnite reload items right now from terrible to the items that are the meta this season. First up, let's start with the hammer assault rifle. This is the most common weapon right now, and it comes in all 5 rarities, and it's starting to become a must carry in reload. This gun just shreds. It has no bloom, and it feels like the spawn rate has drastically increased on the new reload map. This is probably one of the best ARs right now, as it can do 150 damage and deal 25 damage even from a long range. It's going to be used by all professional players and has a great damage drop off, hitting 27 over 40 meters. For that, it's got to be our first meta gun. Next up, the Ranger shotgun. I love the one-shot accuracy you need for this IM, and the fact that it rewards skill more than any other shotgun by dealing 150 damage to the head. It's just broken. However, with the range of different shotguns that you have right now in reload, it feels kind of unpowered with the fire rate. While it does have the fastest reload time out of all the other shotguns, I would rather deal 85 damage with a Maven using its 6 shots in it at a much faster rate. And when you're getting third party nearly every single fight in reload, having a close quarter shotgun that deals high damage but shoots just as fast is just as important. That's why I think it's a fairly balanced weapon, and for that, it's got to go in good. I do love getting shots like this though. It feels so satisfying. Onto the Flapjack, and for some reason this weapon is extremely overpowered in reload, and I think a lot of people sleep on it right now. I would rather take this over a certain assault rifle. More on that later. It's the ability to deal good damage both up close like an SMG as well as dealing high damage to build. A green one has the same spawn rate as any other assault rifle right now, and I generally believe that this is probably one of the most slept on weapon in reload. I think it could see the rise in the rankings during tournaments to get them surge tags, or just to run through players builds thanks to the magazine size on it. I mean, 45 is insane. But I would still swap this out for any assault rifle like a hammer, and for that reason I just think it's decent. It's not great, it's decent though. Leather action rifle, let's just make this short and sweet. This is just a washed down version of the hunting rifle, and when you pair this with a spawn rate of 1, it's just terrible. Just please vault this. I would rather have a mammoth or a normal sniper. I would even pick this off spawn in solos. Just vault it, please. Thank you. Moving on to our first movement item though, and it has probably become the most common form of movement this season. It's both in the normal game and in reload. It's the grapple. If I don't have one of these in my hands, I feel so slow, and generally one of the best forms of movements right now. You can rotate into the storm, you can rotate out the storm. Everyone chooses the grapple. We all know it's great, so I'm going to slap it straight in the OP. Now, the mammoth pistol. I think this is a love and hate weapon. You either love it because you hit shots like this with it and you feel like prime booger, but on the other hand, you can hate it because you just die out of nowhere from it. I've died countless times from someone camping in a bush and then dealing 150 to my head from nowhere, and when you added that, it's literally impossible to tell when someone is aiming at you with it from like 150 meters away. I generally do think this is another OP item. Let's slap it in that category. Talking of range though, let's talk about the Ranger assault rifle. Now, this is probably the most direct competitive that we've got for the hammer assault rifle, and not only do you spawn in with this, but it is an extremely good assault rifle. Unlike the previous one, this one has like no bloom. It deals pretty good damage, and when you compare it to the hammer assault rifle, the Ranger does more damage per bullet and has a higher damage at both medium range and long range, and it also does pretty good high structured damage as well. It's probably one of the best starting weapons we've seen in reload right now, and it's a very welcome change. I know that the previous one had too much bloom. It was just awful. I never felt like I was able to win off spawn with it, and now they've swapped out with the Ranger assault rifle. I feel like I'm being rewarded with accuracy at all range, and for that I would put it in the strong category. I'm still dropping it just for a grey assault rifle. I've never really seen a purple or a legendary one. I've not seen people use it either. Onto the rocket launcher now, and I don't believe this is in any reload curves, but I have seen professional players like Mr. Savage doing some insane plays with this, not only in the main game but in reload as well. It's a fantastic weapon to really open up players' boxes or just get that initial high ground while you're rotating into an enemy's box. I think it's fair to say with the long reload time it uses after firing one rocket you get, it really adds a item that needs to be smartly played. It's a fair weapon that deals a strong amount of damage, so I'm going to slap it in the decent category. The suppressed sniper rifle is a really odd choice, I think, to put in this loot pool. In my opinion, I don't really know why it got replaced with the bolt. I much prefer the bolt and hearing that little dink sound that it used to make. However, I feel like it's a little overshadowed by the mammoth pistol, and it is still a really solid weapon. But if I'm being honest, I haven't really seen many of these around in reload games, in pubs, or even in ranks or players loots, and I believe it's in comp loot pool, and I'm sure it's going to be a great item that can deal a lot of surge damage when it's needed, or just to get that initial crack before pushing into a player's box. But again, I would rather take the mammoth pistol. Both deal the same amount of damage, but one has a glint and can't really be seen. I'd rather have that sneaky play with it, and that I think it's got to go in the decent rank as well. Moving on to the Thunder shotgun, and this is honestly the only other shotgun I would pick up in reload other than the Maven, which we'll talk about soon. But this deals a whopping 105, has the highest fire rate right now out of all the other shotguns. However, I always feel like I've used all the ammo in the shotgun super fast, and I feel like I need to reload mid-fire as it shoots 2 shots at a time. It also has one of the highest reload times right now out out of all the shotguns. That I think is pretty decent. Let's talk about our first submachine gun in this ranking. While I don't think that the meta in Reload is using really any SMG, I've got to give credit on how good the Stinger submachine gun is. It's definitely the better SMG, I think, as it has a tight hip-fire accuracy and is a great weapon for close to mid-range. With so many movement items in the game, using them to close the gap if the range doesn't do enough justice is a good strat, and for that I think it's pretty decent as well. There's a lot of shotguns right now in Reload, and when it comes to consistently dealing damage, I believe the Maven is probably the best one for that job. While it doesn't have the highest amount of damage or the lowest reload time compared to the ranged shotgun, I believe the Maven, especially a purple one, slaps extremely hard. The Maven feels really strong, especially from blue or purple rarity, and when you pair it with having the most amount of ammunition in any shotgun, as well as it being just a generally strong feeling shotgun, I feel very confident when I've got a purple one in my hand. I believe the Maven is the meta shotgun out of all of them right now, especially that purple one. On to our second form of movement this season, and what really is there to say about shockwaves apart from them just being OP? When you compare them to other form of movements, I'm always picking up a shockwave. With jump pads, players can follow or shoot out their jump pads or yours, and with grapples you can miss your shots with it, but the shockwaves, my grandma could use them. They're that simple. Honestly, no issue with them. Love them, always will do. Keep them in the game. Great item for rotating with. I'd rather use these than impulse grenades like in the main game. Let's put these right where they belong in the OP section. Now let's talk about the combat pistol. I really only count 2 pistols really in Reload. I'm not counting the Mammoth. Let's be real, that doesn't count. It's more of a sniper. Saying that though, I'm not really keen to pick up the combat pistol. I've only really used it that much for this video, but it's not changed that much from previous Reload season, and it still has that nice large magazine to get in someone's box or take their walls. It deals the same base damage as a suppressed pistol. It just feels a little overwhelming with everything that we've got in the game. For that, I think it's just got to go in poor. I'd rather pick up a suppressed pistol. Now, the combat submachine gun. I honestly think this is probably one of the worst SMGs I've used all time, just because of that recoil. It literally will shoot up to the moon every time I use it. I often just use it as a burst fire weapon. However, it is really good, dealing that damage really up and close and personal to the face, but the recoil just takes it so further down in the ranking. However, the positive of this is the fire rate is the highest out of all the weapons in Reload, I do believe, and for that I just think it's got a place in poor. It's not great. I don't really want to pick up off spawn. I'd rather pick up just for any other weapon, and that recoil, damn, that is one high recoil. Now, compared to the combat pistol, I love the suppressed pistol for one reason only, and that's because this weapon can hit 50 to the head and 33 to the body, meaning you need what, like 4 shots to take someone out, and it has pretty decent bullet spread off considering it's got a suppressor on it as well. It's a great weapon for opening up people's boxes as well as getting the storm tags as well if you don't want to be seen or heard from other enemies. If it was a choice between a pistol or an SMG meta, I've got to go towards the pistol, especially the suppressed one. The legendary one does so much damage as well, and when you think from a competitive side, when they do trio cups for Reload, they definitely will. Having 2 players use an assault rifle and then the third one using a suppressed pistol will split up the ammo nicely and give you a better chance of getting them search tags without being seen or heard. Onto jump pads now. Don't get me wrong, I like jump pads, but they can be a highly annoying form of movement, mainly because when you throw them on a slope or anything that just isn't a flat ground on the map, they can just send you flying, and with how the Reload map is right now, it's very bumpy, it's very sand-like. These aren't really that effective, I don't think. However, they really excel in just being a form of quick movement that not only you but multiple people can use at one time, especially playing ranked. It's a really great form of movement just for a whole team to use to rotate. However, the only disadvantage with them is you often just get chased by an enemy, as any player can just use these. So if you get cracked, that enemy right behind you is chasing you on them jump pads until he gets that elimination. So that, let's put them in good. Talking of poor things, I honestly think the striker pump shotgun is probably the ugliest shotgun out there. I know this ranking isn't based on the looks of the weapons or the designs of it. However, every time I see any version of this striker pump, I just think it's the worst. When you pair that with that, it does slightly less damage than any other shotgun that you have, has the worst headshot multiplier for some reason, and has an awful fire rate, and it just reloads slower, and I don't understand why it feels like it reloads much slower than the Thunder shotgun. There isn't any benefit from picking this from any other shotgun, apart from compared to something like the auto shotgun, the striker has a tighter pellet spread and a slightly faster draw speed than any other weapons. Plus, it's just ugly, man. I don't like it. I don't want to hold it. I don't want to see my infantry, and for that, it's got to be the terrible weapon. I just don't like it. Like, it's okay, I can fire off spawn with it, slap it in terrible. Onto the final assault rifle in Reload, and I don't really understand why Epic have put the suppressed Havoc assault rifle in here. This one does the lowest amount of damage out of all of them, and in fact, I'd rather pick up a Flapjack rifle. This is because the Flapjack rifle has a slightly higher fire rate, 6.2 versus 6, and a higher damage value than the Havoc suppressed rifle. And probably out of all the assault rifles, I believe the suppressed Havoc assault rifle is just the worst one. I think it's definitely going to go into poor. I think Epic should either vault the weapon out of Reload or just give it a decent buff as well to put it onto to the same level as the other assault rifles. Last but not least is the twin mag SMG. Out of all the SMGs, this is probably my favorite and probably the best one that you can be using right now, as it has that extra magazine strapped onto the side of it, meaning the reload time is significantly lower than any other SMG. When you pair that with having the lowest recoil pattern as well, it's probably the best SMG right now. It can deal a high amount of damage, get into players' boxes, and is a great secondary weapon used against a shotgun. So that, I think, has got to go into the good category. That's every single item in Fortnite Reload ranked. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and if you want to see the entire history of Fortnite glitches, then click the video shown on screen right now, because no one even remembers number 5.